better intersection. But on the other hand, I don't know. The idea is that council.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome along.
To the developer.
We have apologies from Deputy Mayor Woolley and Councillor Campbell tonight. Having viewed tonight's agenda, does anybody wish to declare a pecuniary interest?
Oh, yes, for item 22.7.
Thank you, noted, appreciate that. 4.0, confirmation of minutes 16th of May 2023. Councillor Brown, Councillor Reid, those minutes have been circulated, so I'll take what's been read. Is there any aberrations, corrections or comments regarding those minutes? I shall put the motion for them to be accepted. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 5.0 is the Mayor's report. Thank you. Councillor Reid and the seconder. Councillor Reynolds, thank you. And invite questions or comments regarding my report.
Through the chair. Just wanted to ask for some information about how the waste meeting went at Oaklands with Greg Robinson. I was unable to make it, but apparently I know a few people were meant to be in attendance.
Yeah, it was very well attended. Both sessions were. Some were quite strong about different aspects of the waste. We had a lot of positive comments after each meeting in regards to the level of information given and the broadness of the waste issues that a lot of people didn't realise. There were some quite passionate bits raised about the recycling at Dodgers Ferry, and it's fair to say that a lot of people don't know the history behind all that, and but it was a good opportunity to chat to a lot of people, and didn't satisfy everybody's questions, but like I said, there was a lot of positive comments afterwards, and Greg took on board a few comments from a few other people to add it to the strategy going forward, I guess.
Thank you.
Could I just ask what the Beacon Foundation are up to these days?
The Beacon Foundation have had a fair bit of pressure put on them because of all the different funding sources that have been rushed to them over the last several years to do all sorts of varied projects. It's probably moved them a little bit away from what they originally set up to do, so they are looking to consolidate and be more focused on what they originally did in schools. And we're finding through BEST, our employment hub here in Sorell, that schools are becoming more focused on needing to use, so what Andrew Hyde and Emma do down there, as well as Beacon. And with Jobs TAS in place now, Beacon is one of the agencies they're working pretty closely with, so there's not a duplication of services into certain schools, and that we are working cooperatively with one another and not sort of lapping over the top of one another. So obviously Scott Harris has been through an awkward period of his own personal family life, so he just wanted to touch base and start the communication going to how we can do things a little bit better at Sorell.
I was going to say, are they still at Sorell, maybe?
Not in the capacity of what they were doing before, but in their job creation capacity, they can be.
Thank you.
Thank you. The meeting with Brighton and Clarence GMs and mayors about Tea Tree Bypass, what's the relevance for Sorell?
There's a huge relevance for Sorell there. At the moment, we've got this awkward situation of Hobart being a funnel where it's all channeled in either through the southern outlet, the Brooker, or the southeast corridor. The only way you're going to change the traffic flow for any of the areas in Hobart is to look at how possibility of link roads or other movements away from the funnel effect. Because Brighton is the transport hub for all southern Tasmania, a big part of the pressure that goes onto the Brooker and the Tasman Bridge, as well as the pressure put on council roads, even though they're not our roads, coming back through sort of back Tea Tree and those sort of roads, is putting a huge cost back into council. But if you end up with a transport corridor connecting Brighton to Cambridge, you take a lot of the heavy transport off the Brooklyn and off the Tasman Bridge, which allows it more public, but it also gives the ability for freight to move in and out of Cambridge, Sorell, Tasman, Glamorgan a lot easier and quicker. But it also gives us a much more direct and quicker route to get to the Bass Highway, to get to the Midlands Highway. And if it is possible to get a diversion back onto the Bowen Bridge, we know the Bowen Bridge is underutilised at the moment, so it gives you the potential of going that way and coming in to Glenorchy through the Bowen Bridge instead of going through the Cityway. And we know the pressures and the growth of Clarence is quite enormous, so that's only going to make the situation worse for us down this way to get in now. So there's a residential good part of it. There's also a heavy freight part of it that changes the whole movement in Hobart, which makes for, when you think about the growth of Cambridge and the Hobart Airport, that's where a lot of our employment and development will be over the next 20 years as that grows and expands. So we have to be fully aware of how to move that freight in and out of those areas. And there was an allocation in the state budget towards doing a review of the benefits or however the state DSG look at those sort of things. Part of the discussion we were having with the three councils was the other sort of social aspects of housing, or what happens if you open up different areas and what that might mean. It's a few of the things that the state government might look at. So.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I
One
want
more,
to
sorry. The Regional Waste Authority, does that extend as far as the issues that have been in the news this last week or so about plenty contamination in the EPA and all of that?
No, not at this stage. It is more around cooperation of 12 councils on like-minded projects.
Okay.
Certainly we have a lot to do with the EPA through that group, but not at that level at this point in time. Depending on how that group matures and develops over the next 5 years, we don't know how big it's going to grow, but it's a little bit more focused on that.
Okay.
Councillor Reynolds.
Could you give a bit more information on your meeting with Colin Howlett, Reader Subdivision?
Yes, Colin, representing his family interests, come to see me regarding access that comes up on a subject that we've got to deal with later on into a property. And I can't deal with that on a one-on-one basis, so it was a handball back to the general manager.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have some information on your meeting with Matt Sharples?
Matt Sharples is the sports chaplain for Southern Tasmania, and is part of one of the new wave churches at Lauderdale, I think, or out that area. I ran into him when he was doing some work recently with the Dodgers Ferry Footy Club, and he was quite keen to talk about how chaplaincy can be involved in some of the youth programs that we've been talking about. So we had a quite lengthy and just very general meeting about some of the work he has been doing over the last 20 years with youth. He was originally a school teacher, so he's had both sides of the youth issues, and is a very sensible man that wants to run a similar organisation to what we used to have here in Sorell before COVID with the combined South East churches, where all the faith groups come together to actually deliver pretty broad programs into the community. And he can see the importance of the program was trying to put together about working in with that, so that they were connecting with as many people as they could. Thank you. There's nothing else there. I'll put my report for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Supplementary items, none tonight, and 7.0 council workshops report is listed there. 8 and 9, nothing on notice. Move to 10, work group reports. Require a mover, please, for this. Councillor Brown, thank you, and Councillor Gatehouse, thank you. And open up the floor for discussions with any of the senior staff that are here tonight. Councillor Gatehouse.
On 10.3, page 21, I'd like to congratulate the council for collaborating with 10 Lives and Tassie Cats for working on a collating information from cat owners in Midway Point. I think the feral cats are a real issue, and cat owners should take a bit more responsibility of their animals. I'd like to encourage the council to advertise through their NRM Thursday the dangers presented by feral cats to various other wildlife and issues that free-ranging cats cause. And also, we're coming up to August, which is when the vets run a subsidised desexing programme. Perhaps we could work with local vets to help promote that service as well, to stop the casual breeding of cats in the area. But congratulations to the council for taking the initiative and working with these associations. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Jess was making notes there on that one. Russell, I look forward to the day when Greg has in his report that something has actually happened with our people at Southern Beaches discharging into the bay and having their inadequate system fixed. It's been dragging on for a long time, so it'd be nice to see something different written in the report one month. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Page 30, mention of development update. Every couple of weeks there's questions about the playground at Helena Road, and is there any time frame on that, or it's just a matter of what part of the development time frame would that transfer to council, I suppose is the question.
Yeah, through there, it's Russ and I were discussing this last week with our development engineer, clarifying the situation with the playground. So there's no real reason why it can't be open to the public. So it's been transferred to council. There's some discussion to occur with the developer and us around the official opening of it, and whom it's named in memory of. So we've just got to sort those details out, and it should be open. There's no reason why it can't be open soon.
Terrific. It's good to hear.
The temporary fence nets there obviously belongs to the developer, so it'll be obviously part of the issue, but that's rather minor, but we should be able to get it sorted out fairly quickly.
Great.
I'll just make a comment that I had a resident congratulate council on that new playground that we've just built in Paulina Road. Unfortunately, I had to tell them that. But
We take it.
we will take it over though, so.
Thank you, we don't want to open it so we don't wear it out.
Yeah, good one. Page 14, insurance claims, a number of possible insurance claims. Are they residents' insurance claims or workers or staff? Do you know?
So, I was going to sit here, Scott, because deputy mayor's away, so. No, we're turning it. Turning it, take it.
Complete answer.
Yes, please.
They're a combination of both, but
Right.
they're all under control and they're minor on the they're minor on the resident side of things.
That's good to hear. The other one, the men's shed lease, is that for a year? Yes, thank you. I'll be as quick as I can. And the sampling, page 34, sampling of Blue Lagoon for nutrients. There was nothing to say what the result of that sampling was. Are you at liberty to, or do you know anything?
No, I was speaking with Greg Robertson this morning about the Blue Lagoon sampling program, so for quite a while now, we've been sampling for some bacteria levels, and to a lesser extent, it's a separate sample for nutrient levels.
Mhm.
But I have to actually get what the results were. I'm not sure what they are.
No, I think he's trying to create a baseline for the different conditions that go with lagoon through you, Mayor, but I don't think he was particularly surprised about what the ambient conditions of those key nutrients were. As I understand it, but I don't know what I don't actually know what the numbers are.
It would be interesting for us to find out. Thank you. Last one, we received a grant for a walkway along the Sorell rivulet. That one, isn't it? The Sorell rivulet trail. And we're not able to do it. We're not giving the money back, are we?
Through the mayor, we sought to vary the grant deed to go to 2 other projects instead, which has been approved. So it's the timeframe to have the grant all spent and liquidated wasn't possible to do in the year. And we have the expectation that when the subdivision applications lodged for that large parcel on the eastern side of the rivulet, so between the rivulet and the bypass, that a requirement of that, if it's approved, would be that the developer will provide a pathway. Because the section that doesn't have a path along it, between the existing path below the playground and the highway, it's all private land anyway, so you would have to acquire the land. So it's impossible to do in the timeframe, but through the subdivision, that's the mechanism we're hoping to achieve the same outcome at the cost of the developer.
Good, thank you.
Through now, a couple of follow-up questions. One regarding the testing at Blue Lagoon. Just is that essentially the same as the summer beach testing? Or is it different?
Through me, it's both. So
Okay.
good answer. So the E. coli testing is the same as the recreational bleach sampling program that we have, but the nutrient level is separate. That isn't done for a recreational.
Microbiologically only for the recreational facilities where we've done nutrients and microbiological for the lagoon.
Thank you. And there was another one. Oh, previously, there's already been mention of the waste strategy meetings hosted by Oakines Community House and the community turn up there. What's the next step, or what are the outcomes of the meeting, I suppose, is what I was trying to focus on. It was great to have that community interaction and the opportunity to respond to some of the questions, but what next from, what's the impact, if you like, on the strategy, if anything, from the feedback from the community?
Yeah, through now, I have to talk to Greg around the outcomes. I wasn't at either meeting, so I've had some feedback around what occurred, but as far as if we'll be proposing any change to the strategy or not, I have to give further consideration with Greg.
Thank you.
I don't think there was any need for any immediate changes to the strategy, more so than taking on board some of the timing of decisions that we would make in the future would be my summary, but we may have a different opinion to that. So,
So I think the waste contracts did go to tender last Saturday, so they actually are in a marketplace, and we've got a meeting with potential tenderers early in July. So that process is live.
Next
Yes,
step.
yes. From that process perspective, if that's all right.
If there's nothing else on those reports, I shall put them for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 11.1 is petition for Blue Lagoon Management Plan for acceptance of the petition that comes forward. We'll move it. Councillor Rood, Councillor Brown, thank you. And the report will come back for our next meeting in regard to this. And it's timely that we have got a couple of public meetings on that coming up. So that will form more than likely part of that response as well. Anything else there for you?
No, it's timely in the sense that the consultation has started on the draft management plan review. So it's a bit preemptive to at this stage to form conclusions about what the outcome from that will be. But we'll certainly, by the next council meeting, tomorrow the two sessions. So we'll certainly know the views of those who attend those meetings on the draft management plan, or review management plan, I should say, and related matters. So we'll be in a better position to respond next month.
Any comments from the floor on this motion?
Thank you, through the mayor. I just want to make the comment that I think it's really good that the community gets to get organized and have a voice in this way. I know there's a couple of avenues to have a say right now on the management plan, which is the doing it through the form online or sending letters to us, which we've received a lot of conversations. But I think seeing this petition also shows that the community is finding their way to have a say. So I'm wondering if this, and I congratulate the community for doing this and for having this impressive amount of people signing the petition in such a short period of time. So a question is this going to be incorporated as part of the feedback to the management plan, the Blue Lagoon management plan, or has it been already incorporated?
Through the mayor, I couldn't advise if it's been incorporated yet, but as far as if it could be, there's no reason why it couldn't. I mean, the matters that form the petition, or the aspects that they want considered, would reasonably be part of the feedback anyway. So it's not really, given the management plan is a non-statutory instrument, recognising this as a submission to that isn't fatal. So that can be accommodated.
Thank you.
With that, I shall put the motion for acceptance of the petition. All those in favour? Passed unanimously, thank you. 11.2 is the petition zoning the Shark Point Road, Penna. Over movement, please. Councillor Brown and second, Councillor Reid.
What page?
Page 69.
Thank you.
And probably in relation to the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy. I might just ask the General Manager for comment, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the petition, as the council would be aware, sent through some additional information just this week, with some advice that they've received from the Planning Minister's office. I've discussed that advice with our planning manager around the response that is in the agenda to the petition, and and if that would change the recommendation that you had before you, and it doesn't. Both the planning manager, who's a lot more experienced in these matters, has more contemporary experience in these matters than I do, would both a bit perplexed and bemused that the planning minister's office would make that recommendation when they know full well that the planning commission, with the regional land use strategy in its current state, have already twice refused to consider or approve rezoning to the north of Shark Point Road. They're aware that the Tasmanian planning policies need to be enacted first before the formal review of that Southern Regional Land Use Strategy is carried out as well. And they're also should be aware, if they took advice from the state planning office, they would be aware that the residential sort of supply and demand studies that are underway at the moment, both for the metro, which obviously doesn't affect us, but the separate study that we are part of for all other councils, does involve rural land. So, yeah, my advice and position to council isn't altered. And as per the recommendation, I think that the most logical and cost-effective thing that the petitioners can do is to put in a submission to the Tasmanian planning policies, which this council will be doing, and that is public. It was considered only a couple of hours ago at a planning authority meeting, and also when the formal consultation engagement happens around the actual Southern Tas Regional Land Use Strategy, that they put in a submission at that point as well.
That closes on the 8th of June for submissions?
As far as for the Tasmanian planning policies, that is, 28th of June, responses are due for that, but the larger, if you like, land use strategy review, that hasn't started yet, but that'll be certainly made known to all consultant tasks, and that's up for consideration.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just to clarify, then there is 2 avenues still for the petitioners to get this through on their own, and council will be also putting a submission.
Through the mayor, there's really only one effective avenue. So there's 2 opportunities to put in submissions. The first for the Tasmanian planning policies, that won't result in zoning changes, but that'll help set up the framework for when the regional strategy is reviewed. It's actually the review of the strategy that will benefit more so a potential change to the zoning of that land. But the regional land use strategy in itself, that doesn't result in zoning changes occurring. It just sets the framework for where zoning changes can occur. So it's still quite some time away before this will become a reality, if it's to become a reality. But for the petitioners to pursue this themselves, I recommend against it, because there's going to be a significant cost associated with that, and I just think it's not a sensible spend of money for the likely outcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just further clarify that last point? For the petitioners to pursue this themselves, that means a current rezoning application,
It's
but instead put that effort into the submissions that you've outlined, the 2. Yeah, okay.
And then they can be done themselves without any need for engaging consultants.
Mhm.
But if, for council to initiate an amendment, we have to find the two planners whom we would utilise being either our planning manager or our usual consultant. Neither would recommend that the rezoning occurs. So we have to find an external, like it's not a sensible approach to this. And I'm quite surprised that the planning minister's office would make the suggestion that they have when they know full well how the system works and has worked for the last few years with the planning commission.
Anything else on this at all?
Can I just,
Please.
yeah, I just want to get my head around it a little bit. At the reform stage of the Southern Regional, is council then, if we wish to, could we put in a submission to change that zoning?
It's, the change to zoning won't occur through the regional land use strategy. It's more the settlement growth scenarios is what the regional land use strategy deals with. So for Midway Point, Shark Point, Sorell, etc. And at the moment, they only really contemplate growth at Midway and Sorell within the urban growth boundary. So the urban growth boundary doesn't extend down Shark Point Road at all, nor does it extend at all down Southern Beaches. So accordingly, the growth scenarios or growth forecasts for those areas outside the urban growth boundary is effectively low or zero growth. So we will certainly be putting in quite a detailed submission when the review of that regional land use strategy comes up.
But for those areas, not for the areas outside the growth?
Well, council will need to consider what it wants to do or not do as far as the future strategic land use of the whole municipality. And I'm happy to email the petitioners the submission that we just considered the planning authority meeting to the Tasmanian planning policies, which specifically talks about how we would deal with extensions to the rural living zone. And it may be that approach, we would have the same approach when it comes to putting a submission to the regional land use strategy. But I can email the petitioners that, and they can see exactly what the recommendation was that we adopted from our planning manager.
I just wanted some clarifications.
Oh, that's a
understanding on getting my head around. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'll put the motion for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. 12.0 is land use planning. The Mayor advised in accordance with the regulation, Part 2, Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the intention of the Council to act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning Improvements Act of 1993 is to be noted. In accordance with Regulation 25, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to those matters appearing under item 12 on this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. 12.1 is the Sorell Planning Authority minutes. The 16th, 30th of May and the 6th of June. It's circulated. Another mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Garias and Councillor Brown, thank you. As they've been circulated, I'll take them as being read. Is there any comments on those minutes? No. Thank you. I shall put the motion for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. We now move to 13.1, adoption of the annual plan 2023-24. Move, thank you. Councillor Reid, and seconder. Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
And by discussion. The work's gone into this over countless workshops over the last 3 or 4 months. Everybody's happy with the amount of work gone in and the way it's been presented, and I shall put the motion for acceptance of our annual plan. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. One is community grants program. Move it, please. Councillor Reid, thank you, and Councillor Trenier, thank you. Any comment or conversation regarding this grant at all? No, thank you. I shall put the motion for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. $15.2. Annual contribution towards sea rescue Dodgesbury and the South East Arts. Thank you, Councillor Trenier. And the seconder is Councillor Reid. Any comments from the floor regarding these two annual contributions? Councillor Reid.
Simply that they're a sensible routine for council, given the contribution of both organisations and the to reduce the need for the organisations to consider other grants. So a practical outcome for everyone.
It is. With that, I shall put the motion of acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 16.1 is the Executive Summary Financial Report, May 2023. Really like a move for this one. Councillor Brown and Councillor Reid, thank you. As the 1 year draws to an end, we move over in a few minutes to getting all set up for the next one. So
That's correct.
it's feels pretty obvious that a lot of invoicing and a lot of finalisation of the normal rush at the end of the year comes flooding in for June, but still looks fairly tight.
Yeah, no, everything's going well. Which is good. Can I just ask a question, Chair? Just while we're all here, if I can just ask the councillors. I'm just trying to find them myself, but I've started putting graphs in. They're new this year, and I just wondered if anyone was finding them an additional benefit. I'm just trying to find what page 98.
Through the chair.
Absolutely, yes.
I thank you for the graphs. I
Okay.
think it's always better to use a picture
Yeah.
where you can. And as we get used to them, we'll be able to make more use of them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's likewise for us as we move forward, we'll have more historical data that we'll put into it, so we've got some sort of
So we're
relevance.
moving towards, 3 and 5
Yeah.
year sort of snapshots would be terrific.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
I think one of the good things about how the reporting's been developing over the last probably 6 years is the vast amount of information. It's an easy read, so when you're going through it, doesn't matter what level you're at with the finances, you're able to understand the ups and downs and some of the complications that the finance department are working with, and also the difference in some of the capital expenditure underruns or overruns of some of the projects. So it does make accounts, and the public, we've had accountants and several other people here at meetings congratulate the amount of information in our financials in the agenda. So I think the graphs just make it that little bit easier to look at and understand. It's very well done.
Thanks.
There's nothing else. Councillor Trenier,
On
yes?
page 94, the recycling centres are below budget by 39,000, Scott. Is that because we haven't got the one?
Which one's
That's around
that?
page
94, recycling.
It's 94, I've got.
Sort of savings, give you That's just an overall cost where we've budgeted a certain amount for the year and it's coming in less than what we expected. I don't think if I can pinpoint a specific event that's caused that, more just that it's over the accumulation of the whole year that it's resulted in a saving to what we expected to outlay for that.
I suppose I was just thinking about the mess at the Dodgers Ferry, that's often at the Dodgers Ferry Recycling Centre, and whether some of the funds would go into extra.
I think through me, if I may, it's been because the Sorell Centre was shut
Yeah.
for a period of time by virtue of the bypass construction. So
Okay.
that might
That's what
explain.
I.
Because certainly the costs with Dodgers wouldn't have been under budget.
No,
So
no, but I was just wondering, because we had an excess, perhaps some of it could be used to clean, for further clean-ups around Dodgers Ferry, because there's been, it's been so contentious.
Well, through the mayor, that almost irrespective of the budget situation, we're obligated to look after Dodgers in particular, both recycling centres in a particular way, but I know in recent times Greg has engaged the contractors to do more cleanups at Dodgers in response to its condition, so that happens regardless of and there's a maintenance contract in place that sets the service level, so provided that's met, then that's, I guess, the extent of.
I must admit, I haven't been there lately, but I have been there on occasions where it hasn't been too good.
It's been a lot better.
That's good, that's good.
Through the chair, if I may, further to that, I understand as well as more cleanups when needed from the contractor's point of view, the volunteers have been doing extra cleanups as well. So in just recently, there's been an improvement.
It's good. I haven't had any complaints, so I thought it
Yeah.
must
It's been better.
have improved. Could I just, this one's probably a little bit flippant, but page 96, the Lewisham boat ramp playground, which consists of a little blue duck, I think, and that's about it. I just wonder whether that little blue duck, which isn't being used, could be removed. Russell, you know where it's.
Yeah, I know where you are, yeah.
Yeah, it just sort of sits there, and
It-
even another seat or a proper bench might be better to replace.
Yeah, so through there, I think we either need to improve it or get rid of it. I'm with you. So it either needs more facilities or it needs to be no facility at all.
Yeah.
I suppose we've just put the public toilet in and about to open that up there for the boat ramp. So that would probably encourage a few more people down in that area. So I'll have a word with Parks.
The duck is on the other side
Yeah,
of the
I know.
road.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah,
And it's just useless.
yeah, and it's got a bit of softball around it and no fencing, hasn't it?
It's offensive to the duck. Probably need to
I
have
don't
another duck to
think
make a
I've
spot.
ever seen anything on it yet,
I
a
don't
live duck.
think I've seen many people use it.
No.
Or a duck.
It's like, yes, it looks silly.
There's a duck hunting season at the moment, isn't there? If there's nothing else on the financial, I'll put them for acceptance. Thank you. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. 16.2 is the 23-24 rates and charges resolution. Ask for a mover, please. Councillor Gatehouse and Councillor Brown as seconder, thank you. Like discussion?
Question, please. Through the mayor. So is this related to what we reviewed the previous meeting, the fees and charges? Or they are different? They're the same? No. This is different, isn't it? So I want to know how they're related to the fees and charges that we reviewed.
Yeah, through there, this is principally the rates.
There's no relation to the other ones, is it? No.
It's rates and charges in the sense of the charges relate to penalty aspects of late or missing rate payments, which is sort of one and the same. If you're late or missing a rate payment, there's charges associated. So that's the that's the reference to the charging aspect rather than our fees and charges, which is separate. Sorry, it's just the terminology which is a bit confusing.
Thank you. And so in the fees and charges, it was an increase in 7.5 or 7% or 7.5%.
6.99.
6. So what's the percentage increase here across the rates? Is there?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor, the rate increase for the next financial year is the same at 6.99%.
And that is across all of the, so land use, all the subcategories here. Is that correct?
Yeah, the rate increase is benchmarked against the prior year's rate income level. So we require an extra 6.99% on top of that from this current financial year. So that's
Across the board.
So the forecast we had discussed was 4.5% also for this rates. So in the forecast in previous years for this year, was what was expected, right?
through me. So the financial strategy that we adopted last year, which looked at the current financial year and years in advance of that, did propose or did forecast a 4.5% rate increase for next financial year and the year after, and inclusive of this current financial year, which was a 4.5% rate increase, and then thereafter it was generally benchmarked at 2.5% per annum. As a result of developing the budget this year, there's cost increases that have necessitated the increased rate increase, I should say, from 4.5 to 6.99. There's a later item dealing with the operating capital budget that better details the revenue and expenditure elements that have necessitated that rate increase. But principally, it's come down to the forecast inflation we were provided with a year ago from Treasury has obviously been well underestimated compared to what it has been. So our expenditure is a lot higher than what we forecast or what we benchmark. And that's had a flow-on effect into the amount of revenue we need to maintain an appropriate operating position. So it's not something we want to do, it's something we have to do.
That is in relation to the next trading 12 months as well as the long-term financial plan.
Yeah, so through me that we'll be doing a full review of the long-term financial plan next quarter of the next financial year. That'll come to council for adoption in the second quarter of the next financial year. And we, as we do, we review the long-term financial plan every year and check the forward estimates and assumptions, and also input prior years audited performance as well. So as to rate increases beyond next financial year, until we've done that, I can't comment with any accuracy if they'll be different or not.
Thank you. Councillor Gomez.
I note that there are 3 general rate variations for multiple subcategories. So you've got multiple subcategories of land use falling into those 3 variations. None of those subcategories appear to recognise primary producers, either large or small. For next year's budget rates review, can we make sure that we assess that we're covering and are fair to all the different subcategories, and look at maybe primary producers, for an example, which aren't represented in that in that list. Just a general review to make sure that we're being fair to all, please.
There is some history associated with those categories, and it's very easy to get out of whack when you keep adding categories to it. And that was a situation we had a few years ago, which I'll ask the general manager to explain in a little bit more detail. It can get quite messy when you start putting a whole heap of different categories in. So, Jim, would you like to summarise that a little bit better than what I just said?
Yeah, so through the mayor, the rate structure that was in place was introduced a bit over 10 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. I had within it a number of differential rating categories, so it was the end result was best part of 20 differential rating categories. So depending on what sort of property you own, directly impacted the amount of rates you were paying. So the rate charged to properties was highly varied depending on what sort of property you had. That resulted in quite some inequity in terms of transparency across the land valuation types. And council looked to improve that and simplify it and make it a more equitable and transparent approach some years ago, but we were unable to implement it when we wanted to by virtue of, I can't believe we're doing it again, but we were looking at the emerging proposition back around sort of 15, 16 was when that started, and there was little sense in changing our complete rating structure then, and potentially we would emerge to do it again. So that caused a few years delay, and we had the COVID situation. So we are now coming up to our third year of the new rate structure, and I guess it's unfortunate in that the primary production land use categories were in the lower rate charging category for the best part of 10 years, and they're now being captured in the vast majority of all rateable properties. So I understand why they may feel aggrieved to the change in the rating structure, but the three additional categories we've created here were really to manage as best we could the increases and decreases that come from changing a rate structure where there was, as I said, 20 odd different rating categories we tried to compress into one, but the extremes were too extreme. So pulling out effectively the commercial industrial properties and the Department of Education properties was just one way of managing that, but I mean, it's a matter for the council to consider for next year's rating approach. But from our experience, it's something we'd be steering well clear of. We don't disagree with the sentiment, but doing it equitably is a hard ask.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a lot fairer. It's a lot fairer process now than it was before. I think that's one way of looking at it across the board.
Thank you.
A quick question just on that. So is the C0 or CO, the business and residence, does that represent residential? Or
Sorry, can you say that again?
is the CO or Z0 business and residence? Is that the one no? What's the one? Which one's the one representing residential?
So all properties, so the rating charge that it relates to a residential property is what's covered by the general rate at 2.1 A and B. So there's a fixed charge and there's a variable rate, cents in the dollar based on the AAV.
Oh.
So that's what captures all residential properties and primary production, and there's a whole range of different land use types in a valuation sense that are captured by that, and it's only varied for those categories listed in the table below. But residential is in that principal general rate.
So in 2.1?
Yep.
Yes, so a rate of 4, so the variation here, how is the same 6.99%? that correct?
Yeah, the end result is, what we're trying to achieve is a 6.99% increase. And obviously with each property has a different AAV, and if there's an adjustment that the value in general applies to the valuation, that also has an effect. So there are some peaks and troughs in that increase anyway.
With that, I shall put the motion for that to be accepted. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Motion is passed. 16.3 is the 23-24 operating and capital budgets. And move for this, please. Councillor Trinius, thank you very much. Seconder. Councillor Reynolds, thank you. And open the floor up for discussion. It's laid out pretty well there on the different areas and different makeup of it all, but invite discussion from the floor. Again, a huge amount of work gone into the workshops for this, and so there were a few councillors that made a lot of questions and explaining and working through various ups and downs and in and about. So. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mayor. One question about the federal financial assistance grants and the announcement in the last few days of it being brought forward and paid for the whole year. Is that going to fall sometime in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I've seen various correspondence on that as well, but there's nothing that's indicating that that's going to happen. And as you just said, we've only got 2 weeks left. So most of the departments start closing down and they don't make payments this time of the year. So we'll wait and see.
Through you, Mayor, I've had an email at 4:38 titled Advance Payment of 100% of 23-24 Financial Assistance Grants. Australian Government has announced to bring forward an advance payment of 100%, which will be allocated for payment prior to 30 June 2023.
Okay. There you go.
So they do want the
They
money to
want us
land
do that,
before the 30th of June.
Whereas historically, through me, it's
Not been 100%.
no.
It's been quarterly or?
They pay normally quarterly, and their advances have been slowly increasing over the past few years, but nowhere near, like, say, 70%, maybe 60%.
Okay.
So they obviously want to get rid of some money.
And it's arrived early this year, obviously.
Yes.
In years gone past, it's been very close to the last days of the month where in the past some councils refused to look at their bank account so they didn't have to take it into that year. This may be a ploy to get it in early into the bank accounts. Yes, it does throw things into a bit of chaos.
But good to have that certainty in that sense, I suppose, if you've got all of your, that revenue up front, so to speak.
Well, through me, it's going to show a massively inflated operating position for this financial year now. And we'll start next financial year well under. It's silly.
Smoke and mirrors. There's no other comments on the operating and capital budget. I shall put 16.3 for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 16.4 is 23-24 fees and charges. Have a move to this, please. Councillor Brown. And the second, Councillor Gatehouse, thanks very much. And open the floor to discussion. Discussion, that's Good, the amount of work gone into that's paid off then. I shall put that motion for 16.4 then. All those in favour of acceptance? Passed unanimously, thank you very much. 16.5 is 23-24 rates and charges policy. Move that, please. Councillor Reid, thank you. And Councillor Reynolds, thank you very much. And, fine discussion. Councillor Reid, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, could we just clarify what's changed? What's different?
There
What we have
was,
been doing?
there was very minor, it was mainly edits to last year, as in, what's the word I'm looking for? Like edits, as in grammatical errors that were picked up, slight changes to how it was presented with dot points, etc.
Through the mayor, just to clarify, irrespective if the policy changes or not, we're obliged to adopt a rates policy
Every year.
So it's,
So there's no substantive changes,
No.
continuing what we've been doing.
Yes.
Okay,
we just have to do it.
thank you.
With that, I shall put that motion for acceptance. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Move on to 16.6 is financial hardship assistance policy. Move that, please. Councillor Trenius, thank you, and Councillor Reid, thank you. This became quite a serious policy during COVID, although it wasn't used the way it was expected to be used, but it's good to see that it's still there to make sure we've got that avenue. Is there any comments from on the floor, please?
Can I ask to what extent it has been used after COVID? It's good. Is it not, nothing surprising, you know,
No,
zero?
Yeah.
It is still zero a while ago.
Yeah, Mayor, it's, yeah, but again, I'd like to have this adopted, refreshed each year if you like, or adopted each year, but it's a fairly onerous
Yes, I remember you said that.
process
Mm,
to satisfy that it should be used.
right. So it could be one reason why we've got zero. But it's fairly onerous to.
Through you, Mayor, could I make a suggestion that
Councillor Reid, yes.
given in the annual plan, the review of the customer service strategy, it would be a good context to reality test this, and maybe that's something that can be looked at.
Yeah, through Mayor, was,
Sorry, the caps.
yeah, this was effectively pro forma that the GAP provided all councils during COVID, so I couldn't say that every council adopted it, but the majority would have.
I'm just thinking in terms of particularly cost of living and the stress, the financial stress that householders are under. It's surprising that there's no use of it. So then the mind tends to, well, is it just too hard to use? But that's something that we can look at.
Yeah, I might play to ask the question back to the GAP to see if they've had other feedback on that as well.
Yeah.
But it has its advantages of keeping councils with a similar policy in this area for consistency. No harm in asking the question.
Yep.
Chair, if I could just sort of speak.
So,
What I would add is that we don't tell people to go away if they're under financial stress. So we do work through a process, not necessarily going as far as the financial hardship assistance policy. It has been mentioned. No one's chosen to use that particular policy, but we still work with people to come to some sort of arrangement that meets both parties' requirements, I guess is the way of putting it. I will say that there has been someone in the last 12 months that we did push this towards them. Without going into too much detail, there was the assistance being provided to that particular individual, and they decided it wasn't necessary. So, yeah, that's a sort of brief summary of what does happen within the department.
Working with the mental health.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
That's good to know.
That's encouraging. With that, I shall put that motion of that policy to be accepted. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And we now questions to the public. And we've got a few along tonight, so who'd like to start off? And just remind everybody when they stand up just to say their name for the record, thanks, and then ask their question and we'll do the best to answer.
My name's Wayne McCarthy, I'm a ratepayer of this municipality. I've been to the police about this matter, and they told me it was a council matter. The matter is that on yellow lines and pedestrian crossings, people are just parking, pulling up. And on disabled parking, no disabled stickers or anything, just park. I have asked people to move off pedestrian crossings. They've told me where to go. I've heard that plenty of times. But I believe that there's going to be a serious accident if people keep parking across pedestrian crossings. Because I seen a woman the other day, and that really got me wild. She had to go out around traffic to get into traffic to go across the crossing up near the Albert Cafe, and it's not right. There's as well as road rules, there is also blind markings, and I believe that if you have a licence, you should abide by everything. And I'm just hoping that the council can do something about it.
Yes, I'll ask Russell for comment on this. We do have some officers trained to be able to do infringements, and handicap parking is one of the things that I know they take very seriously. But Russell, would you like to just clarify council's role in the police there on that sort of thing?
Yeah, so basically, the general manager has got a number of officers that are delegated for parking infringements. So if you do see something that's wrong, and the best way for us is if you can get a photo, but if you don't want to get a photo, by all means, run the front desk here, and we will send an officer down to have a look. So we're not running a parking officer, but certainly we find a lot of people for non-compliance in the DDA outside the chemist warehouse, and we certainly will find people if they're on a yellow line causing a dangerous situation for pedestrians or other motorists.
But I attended a meeting with the mayor at Midway Point in the Scarborough there, and one of the questions that was brought up was parking in Sorell where it was dangerous, and I raised a couple of questions at that meeting, and really nothing has been done, and I believe that even if there was just an officer of the council that done a couple of swoops, it's not a very big area to cover. A couple of swoops a day, it would be appreciated by, especially by elderly people.
Point taken on that, and they do it. I can't tell you how regularly they do it, but we'll take that a little bit
A fair bit.
Yep. Thank you, Wayne. Sharon?
Could you please give us all a factual and hopefully an honest update as to what's happening with the extension of the double lanes from the airport to Sorell? I've heard lots of comments, and the CAGS meeting was one where one of the landowners gave an accurate meeting of description of what had been happening with her and the government, with threats and abuse and everything, and she said that it was public knowledge that there's been no approval so far. So could you please tell me what's happening?
Yes, I'm always factual and honest with my answers.
I'm not saying you, I'm referring to the government.
I don't know enough about that stretch past the golf club to make too much comment, other than I know the some of the things have been worked out with the airport for the little bit they've got to take on the corner where the signs are of Pittwater Road. I think they are very close to having full agreement with the golf club. But yes, they do have some issues they're still trying to resolve, and it is at a stalemate at the moment with the landowner on opposite the golf club. The two causeways are still being worked through, and that's mainly to do with the EPBC, the midden sites and the starfish, and the process that they have to prove that how they're going to move the starfish and then put them back. They have said that it's probably 18 months away from getting a proper start on those roads. Depends who you talk to, whether it's 12 months or 18 months. They keep saying 18 months for a safety value now, but if they can get the reports done and ticked off earlier, they will start as quickly as they can. They have appointed probably 4 or 5 months ago, Pitt and Sherry, as the design consultants for the causeways, and they have been in regular contact with council staff and myself to let us know what they're doing, as in checking on the middens, test holes to just see what the structure is underneath and how they engineer the bypasses, the causeways, and where they may have to go on the left or the right hand side, and all those sorts of things that that level of engineering needs to have happen. We haven't been given a timeline. Now, the other thing, the last little bit of that is the connector from the end of the causeway to Giblin Industrial Estate, and there's been no planning done on that at all at this stage. They're concentrating on the causeways. They really would like to move it forward a lot quicker, because obviously the longer it goes, the greater the cost escalation. So that's as far as I know at this stage. Sharon?
Perhaps could I suggest in your next meeting, your next report in the Sorell Times, maybe you pass that information on to the public, because we've got no idea what's going on. There's rumours out there that it's not going to happen full stop, and people in this area are angry because in the past we've been viewed as a sewer area by the government. Nothing ever happens. We didn't get a medical centre. The Tasmanian, the Arthur Highway's a disgrace. And now we're hearing that we're not getting that, so it's raising a lot of concern.
I had a phone conversation probably 3 or 4 weeks ago with one of the advisors to the Minister, and asked for a substantial article to go in the Sorell Times, explain to residents what the hold up was and everything. I thought it would have been in last or this month's. I'm 99% sure it wasn't in there, and I haven't spoken to them about whether it's going to be in next month, but we did ask for a detailed information. They forget when they're making all these decisions that there's people involved, and the communication levels need to be a lot higher. And in the past, they have been forthcoming with articles, but I will follow that up again to try and make sure that's in next month, because it'll be a lot more factually correct coming from them than myself.
Yeah, the old project director that did the first 2 jobs has come out of retirement to do the bit between the airport and the causeways. So I will give him another ring for you, Sharon, and see where we can find out what's going on for that one.
Yes. And just comments about some information the council might be interested in. After 7 years of fighting flight paths, we've finally got a senator coming on our side, Senator Tammy Tyrrell's going into bat for us, and hopefully have the flight paths moved to a more suitable area which doesn't negatively impact anyone, which is good. And the other information is that Jackie Lambie will be running a candidate in Lions at the next election, which I think will be very beneficial for everyone. So just some information.
Hi, can I just ask a very local question? Who's responsible? Is it the council or the police? Because I'm noticing that when I'm travelling, is it Kenner Road up where the shop is? Yes. There's lots of tyre marks where obviously people are hooning around in that area, and they seem to be increasing. Who's actually responsible for monitoring that?
Certainly a police matter. We're finding more and more residents are getting sick of that sort of behaviour and reporting vehicles. But yes, that is very much a police matter. And it's happening all over the municipality. not just this municipality, but everywhere. You hear of a night that,
Is there anything that residents can do as a group in terms of lobbying through the council to the police, or?
certainly information on vehicles that they see doing that sort of thing to the police is helpful. And they have a fair idea after a while who it is, and they get one, but then it starts again. It is a vicious circle of hooning. There has been a lot of publicity about some of the other suburbs of Hobart where they've really had big crackdowns and impounding vehicles and everything, but it just seems to escalate, not decrease. But certainly residents should be more aware and take note of what cars, if they do see them, and not be afraid to report that either to the hotline or directly to the police number.
Problem is, though, it generally happens in the early hours of the morning when people are in bed.
Correct, it's like graffiti.
Why is it the police don't put up cameras in areas where it's happening continuously?
Not quite. You're still to monitor those cameras, and it's staggering how many cameras are actually around. The police actually use a lot of the business cameras as well. When they can isolate it to a certain area, they'll come and approach nearby businesses for that footage. Several businesses in this town have been involved with that on numerous occasions. But once again, it is a very time-consuming process if they don't have a pretty close time and things.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just thanking the General Manager for offering to communicate with us regarding our petition item. And thank you to Carmel also too for mentioning a way that we could go. Thank you for that. Just a little issue for Shark Point Road. We now have all those works going on there with the piping going on from the sewage treatment ponds. As you come from Penner Road into Shark Point Road, we've got a speed limit that says 60. Well, all the work that's going on at the moment, they put signs up that say 40, but they're putting a 40 sign like here, and 200 metres is a 60 sign. Is there any way that council could communicate with the people who are the contractors there, that they just put it down to 40 right to the corner of Shark Point Road?
I'm happy to talk to them about that.
It's a simple thing, and it's just like you're going 40, 60, and then it's down to the intersection there, so.
I can say it's been raised at the council meeting, we appreciate the
Just take the
consideration.
40 to the corner of Shark Point Road.
I can certainly ask.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. There's nothing else. Thank you everybody for your attendance. Appreciate it.
I can have another one.
You certainly can, mate. All right.
This police station is a state-of-the-art police station. The other day, out of the roundabout, I had people on scooters with crates on them out near your place. Going across the road, backwards and forwards, all around the roundabout, and generally creating havoc with traffic. It took me 3 phone calls to try and get someone at this police station. It is not good enough for a community this size, which covers down the peninsula, and I don't know how far north. When we had the old police station up there, once we could press the button and get in touch with the police officer. Now we can't.
Well, this police station here and the inspector, John Cooper here, covers from Beechnut to Newbina.
Yes.
Southeast Division, so it's a big area. I don't know and haven't, although I do talk to him regularly, I'm not familiar with what the office manning requirements or how they're doing that, but I will give him a call tomorrow just to find out for you.
But we should be able to access police without having to make 3 phone calls. But where you ring up the, the 444, the number to them, and then they refer you to another number. Instead of putting you through, you have to ring it personally on your phone, and then they'll tell you to go to another number. And it's just really a circle you're going to where you're trying to report on that.
Thank you, I wasn't aware of that, but it is a fair concern, and I will talk to the inspector,
Thank
find
you.
out exactly how they do it, why they do it, and whether there's a better way of doing it.
Thank you. Can I just add to that?
Please.
Inspector Cooper is thick like a scarlet pimpernel. I haven't actually caught up with him at all yet. I have emailed him.
You mean that he's avoiding you?
Could be. But no, he did reply and say that he was sort of going around all the other areas that he's got to cover because he's only new here. So I believe he'll be coming to our next meeting.
Yes, not likely. It took about a month for me to catch up with him as well. He's every fortnight he tries to cover on a rotational basis all the different stations and spend a day with each of the different areas like Denali or Tasman, Tribal or from Swansea and so forth like that. So he's doing the right thing, getting around and trying to understand what the needs are of the community, and he's pretty switched on. Gavin, the previous inspector, still wanders in and calls it his office, but there's, Peter Harris is doing the same thing, and they have little arguments about that. So there's good communication going on with the previous inspector and the new inspector, and I'm sure that he'll be in contact. Pretty genuine sort of fellow with a lot of respect from a lot of senior officers in the police force.
He's a hard man to catch. Hard man's good fun.
You might have scared him off already.
Do you want us to leave?
We, no, you can stay, but no, we've got to go into close, thank you, so appreciate you coming along, everybody.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to bring some next time.
Make sure Robert eats his, don't worry.
Very nice. Thank you. And I'm waiting for the